I'm late. I'm horribly late. And so it's time to bring in Bart Keeler and talk about USMNT, some reffing down here. So look at you. Whose Lego set is that?
I don't know. It was something generated on Canva. So
I just assumed he's celebrating what might be the last night of Greg Berhalter's job in the U.S. national team.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it because it is do or die, right, Jarrett? I mean, like, the reality is, if you don't get it done tonight.
I agree with you, and I think as someone who doesn't hate Greg as much as everyone else, I do have a question, and I don't mean it. This is more like a devil's advocate question than like a genuine belief question. What happens if he beats Uruguay, but Panama obliterates Bolivia, which the most likely will? What happens if you beat Uruguay and still don't go through?
I think it's a great question because it's not very likely. It is possible that it could happen. I mean, you do have the 2-goal cushion.
Than going through.
I don't know. It depends on how many goals Panama can score against Bolivia. I mean, obviously, you look at the standings, and the U.S. still has that +2 goal, not technically a +2 goal differential, but they have 2-goal differential over Panama. Mm-hmm. So a win puts you at least 3 goals ahead of Panama, meaning they're going to have to score 3 goals. You also then factor in the fact that you're going to have scored. You have 3 goals scored so far. They only have 2. So, but there's still a lot of permutations that put you winning and still not going through. And it's a great question because, you could look at it and say, well, Greg had the same record, had a better record, even than, say, I don't know, the guy named Jesse Marsh, who everyone seems to be, for lack of a term, well, I'm not going to say that. People seem to be enamored by him. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of, and look, you could get a draw and have the same record as Canada did in their group stage games, and end up going home, even though Canada scored just 1 goal in, I think, 5 matches now under Marsh. But you're right. I mean, I think that's the existential question: is what is the standard? What is acceptable? And to me, the standard is that you have to get out of the group. That's why you hired this dude for a second cycle. And I'm sorry, I know that's really harsh because it's not Greg's fault that Tim Weah decided to punch someone in the back of the head. I do think it's very concerning that, according to Tyler Adams, they haven't really talked about that. But I don't know how you justify being the host nation not advancing to the knockouts and keeping your coach. And, the Winalda statement the other day, which I don't, listen, take that for what it's worth. It's a disgruntled former player who doesn't like that every stop he's ever had, they fired him.
That's like an ex that yells out at you.
Yeah.
But so take Winalda. Yeah, and I know, Bart, I know you know as well as anybody. Okay, you can't take Winalda for gospel.
I'm not necessarily wrong. I'm just saying that I don't think that he is the most reliable narrator. But that would be really disappointing. Well, yeah, that's very true. And I think that's going to be the question is, Jarrett, to me, this is the problem, right? And this goes beyond just what you do on the field. You have an opportunity you had one with this tournament to create goodwill, create momentum, create hype around a team that is hosting a World Cup in 2 years' time. That was what this Copa America tournament was. It was an opportunity to play high-level competition. There you go. An opportunity to play high-level competition for the last time for the next, that feels like 3 years, until 2 years until the World Cup because of the way things are going to be going. But also a way to not just test out all the stadiums to see if they work for soccer, but build the hype going into 2026. And failing to get out of the group, missing out on the knockout rounds, missing out on being part of the summer of soccer going forward, is a catastrophically blown opportunity. And then you factor in, and I know that Cindy and JT and Matt aren't necessarily pollsters taking the weight of public opinion, but there is a lot of concern and animosity, quite honestly, toward the federation and the coach. And that doesn't go away if you don't get out of the group. I don't care if you beat Uruguay. And to be honest, and I know this is going to sound like a cop-out, but the easy excuse is, well, Bielsa wasn't on the sideline. John, I know that's your face, but like, come on, that's the reality.
No. I think he's right. And to answer my own question as well, I think even if you beat Uruguay and you don't get through, I think it's very possible that you move on because of what you said. Because you have to get out of this group stage.
Yeah,
you had a layup in Bolivia. Paraguay, Panama's going to be a challenge. Always is, because Panama is just they're frisky. They're hard to deal with at times. Mm-hmm. And then Uruguay, you knew you had to take care of business with those first two. And let me put it this way as well: he wouldn't be the first coach to end up with his head on the block because of blockheaded decisions by his players who let him down. That's not always fair when we look at it from 30,000 foot view, and it sucks for coaches when that happens, but it's not unheard of. And if you don't get out of this group, I don't know, man. I don't know how you keep him there. Plus, part of me, I want Greg to succeed, and part of me thinks that if you do move on, like, he can move on. Let him go run a club, because he was very good at running Columbus. Took Columbus to an MLS Cup. A sketchy MLS Cup that they lost to Portland if you ever go back and watch the highlights of that one, the first goal of the match from Portland is a ball that went out of bounds that they just didn't rule out. Everyone stopped playing.
He was a couple years late to VAR. He would have probably had an MLS Cup under his belt. Yeah. Which at that point would still be the only thing that he's ever really accomplished. But
I mean, at that point, Columbus didn't have as much of a budget. I thought he was kind of punching above his weight at times in Columbus. But let him go run a club. Let him take some of this pressure off. And I think he enjoys running the national team, and I think he likes the challenge of it. But also, part of me is kind of like, if you move on, let the man breathe a bit.
Well, and this is the perfect opportunity, perfect window to move on. And I mean that. If you're going to make a change, now is the time, because if you get grouped, right, you don't advance. Your next games aren't until September, and you'll have time after the Euros are done and their decisions over there are made, after Copa America is done and decisions here are made. That is a time to then evaluate the field. I mean, shoot, you got two guys over in France who will be done with their coaching gigs after the Olympics are finished over there. Herb Renard is leaving the women's national team after the Olympics. And I know this name is not probably the one that everyone's thinking, but Thierry Henry, if he does well, possibly wins the Olympics with the host nation France, could be a hot commodity you could go get as well. But this is the time, because you don't play again until September. So you can take you don't have to have a head coach in charge until, even September 7th or 6th, the day before the game. I don't want you to punt on any more time, because that was the other problem with that rehiring of Greg, where, again, you had an opportunity to just move on. But it does seem like U.S. Soccer doesn't want to move on for Greg for whatever reason, despite him being only good at beating Mexico, who, by the way, are. And here's your explicit rating, John. They're shit.
Buddy.
They are. Compared to what Mexico is, they are. Whew.
They are not good.
Bart's being kind about Mexico, man. Mexico is like 8 kinds of lost, like existential lost in the woods. Not even just like, man, they got talent, they just haven't put it together. No, I mean, there's some talent there, but there's no concept of a game plan. They're not getting better They are lost in the woods, and I don't know how Mexico gets out of this right now. Like, it is that philosophy, as I say sometimes, that no matter how bad it's going for you, I promise there's somebody who's got it worse. And right now, Mexico's that team because, like, at least the U.S. has a really, really good roster of players and more coming down the road. But
well, that's Mexico's plan, is to come scout the U.S. academies for Mexican Americans.
Hey,
it's better than whatever the hell they've been doing. Also, Will, 3G to Atlanta United.
No, please don't.
You call it cursed, man. Like, if you move on for him, like, he's gonna get shots in MLS.
Well, and he should. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, Greg, I think you're right in that if you move on, Greg will find a job very quickly ahead of the club season, either within MLS now or even, and I know this is going to make a lot of people in the chat mad, but even in Europe, you can still spin your way into a European job. Or shoot, maybe he takes over Mexico because they're about to get rid of their dude. Ooh. So, the Greg will be fine. The man clearly knows how to keep a hold of his job despite not actually doing anything worth keeping a job.
So you're saying he's soccer's version of Gus Malzahn?
It is a fire Greg here.
Well, I mean, it literally is. You get to the point. Should they go? Should they go? Should they separate? Should they separate? And he gets that win. Then you keep him.
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, does he go? Does he go? Does he go? He gets that win. And so literally is he soccer's Gus Malzahn?
Well, a little bit. Because he definitely no, I don't even think he's got, he might be Gus. Gus made an SEC championship game, right?
Yeah.
Back and because what's his face? Chiswick did and won a title, and that was about the only good season he had.
And then it was
it was Gus.
Yeah. So
maybe not the worst shout.
Yeah. But when I know that a lot of folks are having fun in the chat this morning involving Greg, but I mean, the bottom line is in this situation that you can't blame Greg for what happened on the field, but because of
you can still blame him for what happened on the field.
But I mean, you can't blame him for
he still conceded 2 goals.
Right, but you can't blame him for like a Timothy Weah moment.
No.
You can't blame him for something like that, but because he is in charge of it all, he is the one ultimately responsible for all of the actions.
This is a national team, John. You can't just change the players. You going to go get a new player?
You ought to be able to.
They've hired him twice now. That's the thing. They didn't just keep him; they rehired him.
Yeah. Well, and how I feel about two.
We are team one cycle here.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the problem. We're all in agreement on that. Period. And you see what happens when you have a second cycle head coach.
Yeah, you know where else that happens? Steve Clark running Scotland for a second cycle. Oof. You have arguably the most disappointing and embarrassing performance in the last 2 or 3 Euros.
Yeah. I mean, and that is Steve Clark took Scotland to a point. Mm-hmm. I'm not even trying to he did a good job to get him to a point.
Woodson.
Yeah,
for the Hawks, he got him to a certain point, but he can't get them further.
Yeah, and that's what you have to wonder about Greg is, does this get you further? Because the reality is, you are going to be playing. I mean, not Canada and Panama clearly might be Copa America knockout round play teams, but they're not marquee matchups in the fall. New Zealand certainly is not. You're not playing the friendlies that you are going to want to build that hype toward 2026. You're not going to get that until the end of 2025, right?
Oh no.
Will Greg's never going to Scotland because Scotland is afraid of anyone who will play with the ball that much.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
They are actually terrified of having the ball at their feet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true there.
I am still beating the drum, and maybe it happens in 4 years. My dreams of Ange Postecoglou running the U.S. national team. I'll have to wait 4 years for that.
Yeah,
whatever.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Let me then Let me ask you, Bart, about tonight, because I know when you come on tomorrow and we can discuss what happened tonight, we know that we can carry on the coaching conversation to a bunch of different directions. How do you attack not having Timothy Weah in your lineup tonight in this matchup, where I don't think you would be rotating if you're Marcelo Bielsa, because just knowing Bielsa for who he is, you want to have your players in as tip-top condition. You're going to continue doing what you do. Doesn't matter how many points you got, where you are in the table. You're going to be pedal down, slam it in the fifth gear, no worries, and that's just how you are.
Yeah.
Knowing what we anticipate from Bielsa and Uruguay tonight, how do you see the lineup changing and the approach to try to get a lot of goals in, because you don't want to have to rely on math? How are you looking at the lineup being different tonight?
Well, I think you do one of two things. I'm going to tell you what I think Greg is going to do, because he is predictable, and he's going to move Gio Reyna out to the wing, and he's going to play the Musa McKinney Adams midfield, because that's what Greg is predictable enough to do. What I would do is you move Pulisic to the right, and you bring on Haji Bright on the left, and now you kind of have two forwards. And certainly on the left side, you've got Anthony Robinson, who's not afraid to get up and down. So, you're not drastically changing your shape. You're just kind of shifting where Christian Pulisic plays. And you're adding another, striker essentially onto the field, even though he's playing winger. So if you need goals, that's a good idea. You still have Pepe and Sargent potentially on the bench. And you can – without Weah, you still have the opportunity to keep wingers at winger positions and have Gio Reyna on the field in the midfield. And I don't know if you saw this, but the stat from a tweet out yesterday, let's see if I can make sure I get the correct attribution here, but stated that the U.S. hasn't scored a whole lot with Gio Reyna off the field. In fact, they haven't scored at all with Gio not being on the field since the Germany friendly last fall. Now, that is, to me, the problem is because Greg likes to use Gio as the first sub off. And, we all know that Gio has a tendency he has a little bit of Giorgos Giacomakis in him. But the reality is Greg does this time and time again, where he prioritizes metrics and data and all this over go get the damn job done. Mm-hmm. And tonight's a go get the damn job done night, and you need Gio Reyna on the field to get the job done.
Jarrett, for Bart, when USMNT really needs to get goals tonight, just so math isn't a part of the problem, what else is on your mind with Bart this morning?
Let's go between the pipes, because is Matt Turner going to be able to go? And are we actually going to protect goalkeepers going forward, considering Turner got waylaid in that Panama game?
Well, Ivan Barton is not refereeing this match, so I think he'll be all right.
So maybe goalkeepers will actually be protected this time, and people will be held responsible for their carelessness and recklessness in the game. Can't imagine that happening, though. How do you feel about Horvath in there versus Turner? I know a lot of the conversation that I saw personally on the Decomposing Bird app was that Turner makes that save, the second one.
I don't.
I think that's
a hot take.
That's unfair in the moment, especially like close range rising shot. But your confidence with Horvath in there? I
think Horvath probably, you can argue, should have done better on that goal, but there's no guarantee Turner saves that. There's no guarantee that any keeper saves that because of the way that shot's going. I mean, that's a tough save regardless, even if you get your hands on it. Also, it's fair to say that Horvath with an adequate warm-up is maybe in a better literal mindset and physical of capability to save it, because he's been preparing to be the starter. That helps too. I don't think Matt Turner has a better ceiling, higher ceiling than Ethan Horvath. We've seen that with the men's national team, but they're not markedly different. They're both not great with their feet, and they're both decent shot stoppers. I think Turner's a better shot stopper, but I don't think either one is going to be the reason why you win, lose, or draw this game. And if it is, I'll reiterate that this ball still had to go through 10 other players. So if you're just blaming the goalkeeper outside of what happened on Saturday, which still is on the defenders for not saying swipe or no swiping, but you should have, if the goalkeeper is the reason you won or lost a game, I think, again, that's a reflection on Berhalter system not being able to actually help you win games through offensive prowess.
Ivan Bartone is the kind of guy that's going to make anyone who follows soccer take to drinking heavily.
He's done it to me multiple times.
So many instances, and literally, I had to go through the Google search machine to try to. Literally, if you go onto the Googles and you do a search for Ivan Bartone referee or Ivan Bartone, controversy, you end up with a list of stuff. And when it came to Bartone and his handling or lack thereof, or if we call handling a loose construct of how he administered his thought pattern to that particular match, first and foremost, the moment where Matt Turner gets absolutely low bridged in the 12th minute was just kind of like, we're cool. No card there. And what also angered me in that moment was that there were no players for the United States who came back instantaneously to get into a player's face about undercutting your keeper. And that could be, a deeper issue. But I think when you have, someone like an Ivan Bartone in the middle who likes to make it all about Ivan Bartone, and his thought patterns are all over the place, you're in for a choose your adventure coloring book. And you've got to kind of navigate what the heck's going on when you have something like that and someone like that who's got the whistle.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is a special kind of referee. Luckily, we don't have to worry about him tonight. And he does, I think, as you said, everything is about him. And we've seen this in multiple iterations of his refereeing of U.S. matches. And it's not that I think it's hard to say he doesn't favor the U.S. or he has a bias. I don't think that's what it is. I think he's just not a very consistent and well-managed referee.
Yeah.
And that is a style.
But he gets all the big assignments, though.
And this is the issue within CONCACAF is your big three of Canada, Mexico, USA are usually involved in the later stages of competitions where those referees aren't going to necessarily be assigned. You're not going to have a Mexico referee officiating the USA-Mexico match. You may get a Canadian. But to be fair, I mean, the best Canadian, Drew Fisher, he's probably better than Ivan. But you're not getting a high-end U.S. or Mexican referee in a lot of these tournaments because they're involved. And if you add now Canada to the mix as especially because a lot of the Canadian referees that you would have at the international level, I'm sorry, y'all, pro referees, which means they're good referees and getting high-level matches. Everywhere else in CONCACAF specifically does not have the standard that MLS and Liga MX have. They're going to be out of their element a lot. And I think Bartone is out of his element a lot, but he's probably the closest you're going to get to the best referee outside of the USA, Canada, Mexico, and CONCACAF. That's the unfortunate reality behind this. I forget his name, but there was a Canadian referee who got like all the USA Mexico matches for about a decade, it felt like, because I think he spoke Spanish, which is probably one of the reasons why, but two, because Canada was still a good enough soccer nation, and again, they're involved in MLS, but not in the late stage. I mean, they weren't even in World Cup qualifying half the time when USA Mexico were playing, or in a Gold Cup final. That's going to happen. I mean, we saw this with Tori Penso getting the World Cup final last summer. Well, it's the first time U.S. women haven't been in the World Cup final. So you have to realize that referee assignments aren't just given because they're the best. It's because that's the person who is best fit for the match that's there. And I do think it a little weird that why couldn't we have had Commonwealth official in that match? If I don't know. I think that would have been nicer. But that's who we got. That was, the assignment. Luckily tonight, it is a CONMEBOL official. Maybe he has some bad taste in his mouth of Uruguay, and we get some benefit of that where he's like, no, I've refereed this dude before, and he loves to pop off. So the first time he does, he's getting a yellow. That miuld be nice. Who knows?
The crew tonight, Kevin Ortega. It is a mainly Peruvian crew. Kevin Ortega is the man in the middle. Your ARs are Michael Orue and Steven Atoche. Your fourth is Augusto Menendez. That is your all Peruvian aspect of it. Your quality manager is also Peruvian and Victor Carrillo. Your fifth is Jose Antelo. He is from Bolivia. Your VAR is Carlos Orbe from Ecuador. Fellow Ecuadorian ref Brian Loaiza is your AVAR. And your Asesor de Arbitros, according to CONMEBOL, is Angel Sanchez from Argentina. So that is your crew for tonight when it comes to the U.S. and Uruguay. Couple of things in reffing down here that I wanted to discuss with you before you got out of here. First and foremost, there were some folks that on the Jamal Thiare goal were saying that Jamal should not have been allowed back onto the field of play once he exited on his own. It was against the rules that he came back in, or saying that he was offside. What's the guideposts there about being offside and exiting the field of play and those kinds of things?
So first, I just want to say that these laws that we write that are written about players exiting and leaving the field are mostly about substitutions and gaining unfair advantages with changing players or coming on and off.
Yeah.
There are what Jamal did is not inherently against the laws of the game, because the referee was aware that he went off the field. If you weren't, then you weren't paying attention. He went off to get a sip of water, like goalkeepers do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who is a goalie, there are plenty of times where the ball is at the other end of the field and I am thirsty or just yelled at someone for a long time, so I'm going to go get a drink of water, and I'll quickly hustle off the field, get a sip, and come back on. The problem is, obviously, this was directly caused a goal. So, I think it's fair to say, wait, why is he allowed to? And the reality is because the referee saw it and allowed it. It's just about referee's permission. That doesn't mean the referee has to physically go to him and give him written authority to leave or re-enter the field.
Here's your hall pass.
Right. This also is mostly. This also is a lot about like re-entering after an injury, because if a player goes out injured, the referee does want to make sure that everyone's aware. Like, no, he's coming back in, because most of the time you're like, okay, they're down a man or something like that, or you don't want them coming back on to where they're going to be able to steal a ball and have a hockey re-entry breakaway like we see so many times in the NHL, which is one of the coolest goals to watch your team score. It sucks when your own team concedes one.
True.
This is fine. Like, I think people want to argue about it, and they're Canadian and their opinions don't matter.
Oh, see, I had to let that one go in there. And considering that this is their July 4th, and that good timing on
it
your
is. Congratulations on
to drop the reference on their Independence Day, their Victoria Day. Well done. The other one that I wanted to specifically get into, having to do with VAR, is once again you're seeing instances of basically trying to re-referee decisions on the field and not go with the idea of the clear and obvious error and then look at it and analyze it from that perspective. I think that we continue to have the misapplication of VAR by VAR officials in tapping folks in the ear and going, yo, bro, I think you need to look at this, where instead of you have the on-field judgment call, you're now having it being re-refereed upstairs, and it's past the point of, hey, I think you missed something. I think that you're now seeing I'd love to know what the times are on average for reviewing calls this year, where you might be fishing for things instead of just sitting there. It's like, okay, dude made a judgment call and letting it be what it is. I think that we're having a lot of re-refereeing from upstairs, and I think that it's a dangerous precedent.
It does feel that way right now, because I think we're still figuring out what is and isn't under the purview of VAR.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the problem is also we have not held to the standard. That also said, I think we're finding ways to use technology to help us better determine, clear and obvious. The little chip in the ball at Euros to determine if there's a handball is really nice.
Yeah.
Despite what people want to say, the Denmark goal, offside is offside. If we can use those lines to determine it, we should.
Yeah.
If we can use goal line technology to determine if a ball crosses over the goal line in between the posts, then that's good things that should hopefully reduce that time. But I'm with you, like going back to say, oh, that was a foul or it wasn't, is a dangerous game to play, because now you're looking at, okay, well, whose opinion is it a foul?
Right.
That also, though, is where you send a referee to the monitor and say, hey, I think you may have missed something. Go check it out.
But I wonder how many times, and I will say this, the LAFC Atlanta United moment where David Barry calls Boyko over to the monitor, and Sergi Boyko goes, no, I don't think that he was going to make it. And then Barry basically overrules and convinces Sergi Boyko that
and that is a problem. That conversation is a problem. Once that referee goes to the monitor, the conversation just needs to be, hold on, we're checking. And then once you go to the monitor, it should be just the referee on the field directing what he wants to look at, not being told what to look at.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm with you there. I mean, again, I think that the problem is you need to let the on-field official continue to make the decisions, because ultimately it's their match that they're managing. And so as the center referee in the game, you have set the tone. You're the one living it. You're the one talking to players, understanding how they want things called, how they don't want things called. To your point of the LAFC one, I don't think LAFC players would have been super hard done had the decision still been, no, that's a goal kick. Like, sorry, that was just, I mean, Brad clearly wins the ball and unfortunately took someone out, but it was, I mean, that was because Brad was going this way. Another dude was running really, two people run really fast at each other.
Yeah.
Things happen. But at the end of the day, I still maintain they got that call correct because of Brad tripping him. But I mean, I think the problem continues to be the VAR not necessarily overstepping, but not fully understanding their limitations of their roles, and not staying within just the, hey, we checked it, we probably think you should look at this, right? And again, clear and obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Clear and obvious.
Clear and obvious. Just clear and obvious. That's what we're saying.
Which, by the way, offside is both clear and obvious.
Yeah.
When you have those lines, it's clear and obvious. If you don't have lines or that technology, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But offside is a very finite and definite call.
And if you got a problem with how it's being administered through technology, change the rule. Don't change the technology.
Right.
All right. So tomorrow we are having you back. What are your plans for this evening? What are the Outlaws' plans for this evening in gnashing of teeth and chewing of nails? I'm sure there will be a lot of stress involved, but we will be at Fidel Midtown starting at probably 8. I'll probably get there. Probably people are a little bit earlier than I will be. But game is at 9, so we'd love to have y'all there. It is going to be nervy, I won't lie. That said, John, this is the positive. If I can leave on some positive notes. I mentioned for 2026 and that this could be a catastrophic loss of that opportunity. However, it could be the next Landon Donovan moment. And if you get that goal that propels your team into the round of the quarterfinal round after, staring elimination in the face, that can also propel your team forward
and galvanize a fan base around you. Give them hope, give them something to cheer for. That's the positive outlook for tonight, as you get one of those moments. And again, you have to also remember, Panama and Bolivia have to go play soccer too. And nothing about this is written, is said and done. Panama scored 2 goals against us. They got 1 against, Uruguay. They're not incapable of scoring goals. Bolivia might be, but they're not exactly scoring goals against teams that were fully locked in that manner, right? I mean, they score a late goal against Uruguay after conceding 3. They got lucky and scored against a 10-man U.S. team, which Canada should maybe learn from that. I don't know. They should try scoring. Sorry, Canada, you're catching all the strays today. I'm tired of people talking about Jesse Marsch, telling me he's somehow this great a coach when they barely snuck through this group stage and whatever. But you have an opportunity to create a memory and an inflection point, one way or the other. Hopefully it's a positive inflection point to rally the troops behind your team heading into the 2026 World Cup with a memorable moment. And that's the key for tonight. Win the moments. How many times have we said that on this here show, talking about a team losing because they lost the moments? You have to win the moments tonight. And if you do that, you'll have a lot of fans with a lot of great memories about y'all doing that and falling in love with you.
And we will see if it is fawning or if it is fanning after the match.
Hold on, bam! Canada advanced. The U.S. is still in the tournament, so hold your daggum horses there, okay? Also, I'm just saying, you scored 1 damn goal. 1 damn goal. Now that's like what, set 0.73 of a goal, really. So don't be all high and mighty because Chile and Peru gave y'all red cards to play against.
Yeah. So
maybe y'all should focus on scoring.
Yeah. Well,
1 goal in 5 matches under Jesse Marsch. 1.
Bam is thinking it through from the concept of the entire monarchy. He's representing the monarchy and the Commonwealth on the whole. That's why Australia is chiming in on a Canadian matter. So we will have you back here tomorrow in some capacity in hour number 1. You're probably batting leadoff, considering the import of the event.
Yes.
So probably 9:10ish, somewhere in there. You
9:10ish. I love it.
9:10. Well, I mean, because I've got to play the goals and get everybody all gassed up in a nice lather before you come on batting leadoff tomorrow. So make sure that you are properly hydrated, that you have everything all prepared, that you have your setup all there, and we will catch up with you tomorrow, my friend, about what happens. Match day 3 in the group for U.S. and the Copa, and we will find out what our answers are.
Then I'm even drinking out of an Australian cup today. You can't see it. There you go.
Oh, wait, look closer. In front of you. Put it in front of you.
Yeah, I'm trying.
There we go. There it
Sydney,
is.
See?
Yeah, see? There it is. So he's got the Sydney Bridge and all of that. So, all right. So we'll catch up with you at 9:10 tomorrow, and we'll discuss what happens tonight. And I know that you'll probably have a lot of spleen venting to do, and that's why you're going to be on in hour number 1. And your real world job is going to have to sit there and wait and understand that you got some important talking to do.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.
All right, there goes Bart. And as always, it's great to have Bart as he's discussing things from Bam, I can't say that on the air. Bam is discussing how Sydney is not named Sydney to everyone else outside of Sydney. So